I am. I'm going to flip the script.
Okay.
I'm going to flip the script on be careful. This is more about teaching kids reasonable risk, okay? And this is what teaches them the cause and the effect.
If I'm climbing up a tree and I fall down because the branch is a little bit shaky, then I will think twice about climbing up the tree. If I am never allowed to take a reasonable risk, I don't learn from cause and effect. It's very confusing. I don't know what happens if I hold, a Swiss Army knife. I don't know what happens if I do things because I'm never allowed to do anything. I'm told to be careful constantly.
Okay, so she goes on to explain that we as a society have kind of embraced this whole idea of stranger danger, which, by the way, is really important. But we have to be careful not to create this fear-based environment when it comes to kids. And, of course, safety is important. She's not saying, like, okay, yeah, I'm not advocating for kids to go to the mall by themselves and they're underage and they're roaming around and they're by themselves. But what she's saying is we have to ask ourselves, are we allowing our kids to take reasonable risks? So here are some examples of how not to say the phrase, be careful. So instead of saying, be careful, say, be careful, you'll fall. You're climbing up pretty high. What's your plan to get back down? That way they start to think about, oh, okay, if I go too high, like, how am I getting down, right? Making them think a little bit. Be careful, you're gonna hurt someone with that. Instead, you can say, you need space to swing your stick safely. So instead of going, you're going too fast, you're going to go crack your head open, say, do you notice the pool deck is slippery? As this rolls on, you'll see more examples, but the whole idea is not to instill fear, point out the consequences, and then you kind of provide options in the way you phrase it, and that will encourage autonomy along the way. Something else I was thinking about is, if you say be careful all the time, kids become desensitized to it.
That's true.
Right? So it's kind of like Maria and I were talking yesterday about yelling. Like, we yell and yell about everything. So they don't know when you're yelling if it's actually a serious thing, because now you've just made it this regular thing. You're always yelling. So you gotta be careful. Be careful with that.
See? You're conditioned. I mean, when does that whole process start? Because I have, Ethan's like a year and a half old.
Yeah, like even now. Just, you gotta think about how you phrase it. Teaching consequences at an early age,
I really like this, the reframing. Goes a long way.
It does. And the thing is, all of this stuff you have to think about, and I think most of us, when we decided to have kids, didn't think it would be this much work in that sense, right?
Like to be strategic in that.
Right, and this is all about kind of how you phrase it, what you say, what your tone is, and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and it's true, even if you do have like little ones, other parents were like, you have to anchor all the furniture to the ground, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm not gonna change the landscape of our place. He's living here, like at some point, he's going to need to know
he's living here.
There are consequences. Like, he's living in our space. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are consequences within reason, of course.
Reasonable, yeah.
But I like the tips too with this expert, because I just love that reframing, because it's making them think, hey, you need space to be able to swing your bat or swing your sword. It's making them go, oh, I mean, I'm not a parent, I don't have kids, but being around students as a teacher, I mean, that's like one of the things when kids get in trouble, rather than just like you get detention, you get this, but to make sure they understand, do you understand what you did to get you here? To talk them through it, and it helps. Right?
No, those examples help, because if you're, someone's swinging a bat too close to someone, instead of just saying the words be careful, you're explaining why. Like, do you have space? You got to back up so you don't hit someone.
It's like, I'm not just trying to bust up on you, right? But I got better things to do, right? But I want you to understand that there's a consequence to your behavior. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys later.